All right. Hi, everyone. Sorry about that. So I'm going to start back just from the beginning, since we had some difficulties with technical sound and all that good stuff. So I'll just start from the beginning and try to get through this intro really quickly, so that we can get to the main event of our presentation today. So thank you again for joining. We're really excited to host this webinar for a second year in a row and give you all some insider information on how to support your rising seniors with opportunities to visit some of the nation's top colleges across the country. Today's presentation is really straightforward. It'll be more like a laid-back Q&A style with our guest panelists. They're really the true experts on the topic here. So in a minute, I'll have our college admissions officers introduce themselves. And of course, as always in all of our presentations, we will have time for question and answer at the end of the presentation. And just a note, we are recording, so everyone will receive the slides in the presentation following today's webinar. And I just want to quickly introduce myself. My name is Elisa Park. I've been on the Greenlight team for over 2 years, and I'm really thrilled to be moderating today's conversation with our panelists. Prior to Greenlight, I worked for 2 years at a college access program here in the Chicago area. And currently on the Greenlight team, my role here is to introduce our free college and scholarship search tools to organizations who are new to the Greenlight platform. So if you are unfamiliar with us or just want to learn more about how to support all high school students in their college and scholarship search, please just type "I'm interested" in the chat box and I'll follow up with you individually following today's webinar. So just for the main event now of our presentation, here are our 3 amazing schools being represented today. We have Amherst College in Amherst, Massachusetts, Carleton College in Northfield, Minnesota, and Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, Maryland. And these are our 3 amazing panelists and college admissions reps who have graciously dedicated their time to share more about their institutions and fly-in programs. So if I can just have them introduce themselves. Remy, can we start with you, please?
Yeah, totally. I have been here at Carleton for 7 years. I work as our multicultural coordinator. I am also a Carleton alum, so happy to be back and happy to be online.
Thanks. Damien? Hi, Damien. Can you, I don't think we are getting your audio.
Sorry about that. Hi guys, Damien Garcia here at Johns Hopkins University. I've been here for just about a year now, but I've been in the admissions business for about 11 years. So I have experience across the board in a couple different institutions. Happy to work with you and talk to you more about the importance of flying programs.
Awesome. And Edgar? Hey, Edgar, I think you're still muted.
Gotcha. All right. Just wanted to double check. Hi, everyone. My name is Edgar Gonzalez. I'm one of the assistant deans of admission at Amherst College, and this is my 2nd year here at Amherst, 4th year in admission total, and I'm very excited to share this information with you.
Awesome. So thank you so much to our panelists for joining us today. We're going to dive right into the questions. So we've got a packed agenda of frequently asked questions about college fly-in programs. And I think we're going to start with Edgar. Just if you can give us an overview about college fly-in programs, what is a college fly-in program, what happens during one of these for students. So go ahead and take it away. Thanks.
Yeah, definitely. So a fly-in program is really an opportunity for students to get to know a college better. At the end of the day, that's really the definition. Printed materials and social media and other resources are a great introduction to colleges, but I think that there's something awesome about being able to step foot on a campus and to get a sense of the feeling of fit for a student. And colleges build this sort of sense of fit in different ways. This might include hosting students overnight in the dorms, having students visit classes while they're on campus, maybe attend workshops with admission and financial aid, deans or staff members. And, just really an opportunity for students to engage with the community itself and to meet students that they could potentially be classmates with. And overall, the idea is to build this sense of belonging and welcoming. And each institution has a different way of helping students, visiting fly-in students, get a genuine look at life at their institution.
All right, thank you. So for the next question, what makes each college fly-in program unique? So we are going to learn a little about each individual program at the institutions being represented today. And again, we're going to have Edgar start.
Great. So Amherst has 2 fly-in programs for prospective students. And those being students that are going into their senior year of high school. Those are the eligible students that can apply for the Diversity Open House Weekends, or DEVO as we call them. We have 2 DEVO programs, one in September and the other in October, and you can probably see the dates there on the slides. The first one is the 22nd of September going through the 24th. Our program students will fly in on a Saturday, spend Sunday doing programming with our admission and financial aid staff, and then Monday will be a chance for them to actually get a chance to go and visit classes and to eat in the dining halls, and they're being hosted by current students during all 3 nights of the program itself. The second of the Diversity Open Houses is actually a little bit different in the sense that we have a Native American overnight component to it, where students will actually fly in a day early. And this specific program is one of our many initiatives in which we look to support a greater number of Native students on our campus. We are located on the traditional land of the Nipmuc, Pecumtuck, and Wabanaki people. And so I think that just sort of acknowledging that is also a thing that I should definitely do. We have a short application process by which students can submit an essay, an unofficial transcript of a list of their classes that they will be taking in their senior year, and just some demographic information, because we do actually prioritize students that come from underrepresented backgrounds, those being students who identify as first generation to college, low income, or students of color. And sort of broadly defining students of color here, we consider groups such as African American or Black, Hispanic or Latinx, Native American, or Asian American backgrounds to sort of fall within that umbrella there. And we have a link there, sorry, just to trail off there. We have a link to our program dates and application there at the bottom of this screen, which you see there, amherst.edu/admissions/diversity/devo.
Thanks, Edgar. I just want to apologize again really quickly to the attendees that I did not start sharing the screen. Just want to let you all know here are the folks that you are hearing from, just so you can get a visual. That'll be back up during the Q&A, so I apologize for that. Thanks for writing in. So we'll have Remy start now on Carleton's fly-in program.
Yeah, totally. We are awesome at this. We're like a well-oiled machine together. Yeah, so a couple of things that make what we call TOC, or Taste of Carleton, unique. First and foremost, we pretty intentionally use language that's underrepresented students. So many of the students who attend this program do identify as young people of color, but that's not a requirement for our program. We take a pretty broad approach to that language, right? So certainly students who are first generation or low-income students are eligible to apply, but students from rural areas are welcome to apply. Students who hold a queer identity are welcome to apply. We end up with a really interesting mix of students at the program, just because, again, we take a pretty broad approach to what it means to be an underrepresented student. We are intentionally what I call a no-frills program, meaning we are trying our very best to be hands-off. We bring the students in on a Thursday, they go home on a Saturday, so they get to see both the academic and social side of campus. Once we get students here on Thursday, we feed them, we get them partnered up with their hosts, and then we don't see them for 24 to 36 hours because we just want them to be Carleton students for the time that they're here. So rather than use the program as a way to talk about college access or to talk about what makes an application better or anything like that, we don't necessarily use the program as a workshop, really just a taster for what the institution is like. And again, the info for the program can all be found at the website. It's go.carleton.edu/TOC.
All right, thanks. Damien?
Yes, hi, great, thank you. So happy to talk a little bit about Johns Hopkins overnight fly-in program. It's called HOME, Hopkins Overnight Multicultural Experience. And it is, similarly to my colleagues here, a 2-night experience from Thursday, September 27th to Saturday, September 29th. And again, similar to my colleagues, it's going to be very similar. You're hosted by a current student, and you get to experience campus you get to experience what living on campus, sleeping in a dorm is like, eating in the dining hall. What makes, I think, the opportunity here at Hopkins, or the HOME program, really rich is that we provide an opportunity, excursions, if you will, out into the city of Baltimore. The city of Baltimore, in relation to Hopkins, is an important part of the education experience here because it turns out to be sort of an extended classroom, the city of Baltimore. And being positioned in the city the way Hopkins is, we actually have a lot of research opportunities and internships with a lot of local community organizations and businesses. So we actually take students out during one of the days on excursions on 5 to 6 different sites. They can't see them all, of course. You do get a chance to choose whether it's related to STEM, whether it's related to the arts, whether it's community service. So you get to see what it's like to be a student at Hopkins, but also a student in the community of Baltimore. And this is intentional. This is part of a curated experience that we want to make sure that you are aware of the experiences beyond campus that are available to you because of our location in the city of Baltimore and where we are. So that's another sort of unique attribute of this type of fly-in program where we provide you an experience outside of campus so that you can understand and see what it's like to be a student in the community of Baltimore and beyond Hopkins as well. Alyssa?
All right, thank you, Damien. So the next question, and again, all of the information, I know we are kind of zooming through this, but you'll all have access to these slides, the links, and the dates that all of our reps have shared with us today. So the next question, what are the benefits of attending a college fly-in program? And so we'll start with Remy.
Yeah, so I'll just rattle off a few here. I think Edgar already mentioned what a terrific way to get to know a campus, and very often for free. And I don't want to, speak too broadly because I know, different programs handle things differently, but many of us do offer financial assistance for students coming to visit. Some programs also offer application advice, right? I mentioned that our program does not, but many programs do, and that's awesome, right? Like if you've got a dean of admissions telling you, hey, this is a really great thing for you to write in your essay, or here's a really great way to stand out, what tremendous information to have. Though I think the most beneficial aspect of a fly-in is really the face-to-face interaction that you get to have with people. You get candid advice. We all know students between 18 and 22 they're very honest. So they'll give you the good and the bad, right? They'll be honest with you about the institutions that your kids are visiting. And you get face time with admissions officers, and you get to interact with us in a really genuine, sort of a no pressure sort of way. I know, and I'm sure Edgar and Damien can chime in here too. The students that come for our fly-in program, we feel like we know them more than any other students that we read applications from, right? We know every single one of those kids by name and face, typically by the time they land at the airport, because we've been reading so much about them. So it's a terrific way for students to sort of get on our radar in the most positive of ways. Damien, feel free to jump in here and add anything you think I've missed here.
Sure, thank you. Yes, I think I can echo that exactly, that the benefits of a face-to-face and having time to really ask the questions that maybe you don't know who's answering the questions when you send an email to the school website, right, or to the admission go-to inbox that you maybe were getting questions from. But this is an opportunity to have those questions answered in person by actual students or staff. I think the benefit of attending these programs is the fact that we put so much thought into at times sort of curating an experience and making sure that you have access and exposure to the various staff, resources, divisions on campus that you may ultimately interact with as a student. So we want to make sure while you're on the campus during the fly-in, you can make the most of the opportunity. So we make sure we let all of our campus partners, whether it's student advising, the Office of Multicultural Affairs, or the Career Center, the Study Abroad Office, we alert them and let them know that, hey, we have a great deal of prospective students coming here for a couple nights. We'd love to get you in front of them. So the benefits really is about getting in touch with resources on campus, on the ground here, seeing what their office spaces look like, but also, again, having a connection and being able to speak with someone in person is truly important. And lastly, I would add that really it's about that feeling too, right? It's all for you, and ultimately you need to come here and you need to visit the campus at any fly-in and find out if this is going to feel right for you. Ultimately, I think we all want you to leave with a sense of, yeah, this is where I want to apply. I definitely want to submit my application. And it's okay if you leave here and say, you know what, this is not what I thought it would be. So when you think about why you should attend a program, definitely understand that it's a self-reflective experience as well, where you want to come away answering your own question, can I see myself here or not? And I think those are the key things you want to get away. Those are the key benefits from attending a fly-in program. Melissa?
Awesome. Thank you, Damien. And thanks for everyone who's continuing to write in questions. Please keep them coming and we'll answer them at the end. So next up, we have tips on the application process. So let's have Edgar. I'd love to hear from you.
Sure, definitely. So with the application process, and I think this sort of extends a little bit more broader to any application process that has a fixed deadline, we are lucky to have such incredible groups of students applying to these programs, and it can be tough to have a rush of materials all at the last day before or 2 days before the deadline. And with our admissions or our fly-in application process for Amherst, we specifically have a component in which students must submit a transcript. And since we have a summer deadline, that can sometimes trip students up when they realize sometime in early August that they have to reach out to their school and could potentially be ineligible to apply because they are unable to reach out or connect with their counselor. And so I always urge students to plan ahead, to think now, and we've been doing outreach to remind students, the earlier that you can get started thinking about what is it that I might want to write in my essay, what perspective do I want to share, what other pieces will I need to have together, the better I think that it ends up being for students. I myself am a very big procrastinator, that's for sure, and so I'm calling the pot calling the kettle black here. But I think that it's certainly something to remind students, just to say, this is a great opportunity. You don't want to miss out because of forgetting to put all the pieces together.
Awesome, thanks, Edgar. Remy, do you have anything to share regarding tips on the application process?
Yeah, totally. So I would actually say the same thing for fly-in applications as I would for regular applications, which is spend time on the essays. Students so often are great, like their transcript looks awesome and test scores are awesome and teachers love them and everyone's got positive things to say. But gosh, it's so easy for those of us who have been in the admissions game for a bit to tell if we're reading a recycled essay, right? To tell if I'm reading an essay for Amherst fly-in program and you've just scratched out Amherst and changed the name to Carleton. So I'd encourage you to let your students know, spend some time, right? If they really do want to attend a fly-in program, encourage them to spend some quality time thinking about why this particular program, right? Like rather than, oh, I want to do some fly-in programs this summer, why specifically Johns Hopkins or Amherst or whatever the program is, and then make sure they convey that in the essays. So often at selective colleges like ours, the decision doesn't come down to who's the better fit academically, right? Most of the students that apply are great academically. I think very often the question for us is, okay, which student is going to be a better fit at our institution? And a lot of that information gets conveyed through some of the short essays that we ask for. So, Elisa, I'll turn it back over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Remy. So next question, which fly-in programs or programs should students apply to? Damien, if you can hop in first, that'd be great.
Sure, yeah. I think similar to my colleague Remy from Carleton, is what she mentioned about thinking hard about the programs and not just creating let's see how many flyings I can get into this year mentality. It's about looking at schools that you do have on your list that you think will be a good match, and that does require a little bit of research on the back end on your end. So you want to take time to look at the institution. I'm sure you've gone through and have it on your list because you found that it has some of the academic criteria that you're looking for, and that's certainly one way of driving, which fly-in programs you should apply to. I think it's also worth mentioning that there are various types of fly-in programs. Several, and many of us here represent fly-in programs that serve multicultural or underrepresented populations, and also first-generation limited income students as well. So these can be one and the same, but they can also be different and separate fly-in programs that may be available. So it's important to understand who the fly-in program is for, and identify whether you fit within that sort of category or that descriptor of what the flying program is designed to do. There's often academic specific flying programs that you want to consider. So for instance, this past year at Hopkins, we offered a humanities fly-in for prospective students, the first of its kind. So we wanted to get more students exposed and see and to the humanities at Hopkins. So we created a specific opportunities for students who are solely interested in humanities. So again, other opportunities for flying, and again, thinking about the academic fit, or again, sort of the curricular fit and the interest piece also plays a role in sort of deciding which flying programs you should apply to.
Awesome. Thanks,
Alyssa?
Damien. Remy, do you want to hop on in for this question?
Man, I got to tell you, Damien, you hit the nail on the head. I'll save the time for some of the Q&A. I thought that was great.
All right, awesome.
Wonderful.
Let's go on to the next one. Just got a couple more. How can students stand out in the application process? So Remy, let's have you take over that question then.
Yeah, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I'm going to say it again. Like, students, please figure out why you want a particular fly-in program, right? And so often that's conveyed to us through an essay, right? We all get the same transcripts, we all get the same test scores and sort of the quantitative values, right? Students really stand out because of the fit factor. And you know, again, that's conveyed through the essays, but also through many of us ask for like a list of activities or how students spend their time outside of class. Kids are sometimes so humble that they only want to tell us things that they think are impressive, right? When really we're just impressed by the human that's applying. So if you're working with students, encourage them to really think about how they spend their time, not just what they consider extracurriculars, which are often things with a title or things that are run exclusively through their school. You know, students that impress us can be, you know, students who babysit siblings 25 hours a week, right? Or students who hold a part-time job, or students who help out at their place of worship, or whatever the case may be. Really, the more they can convey themselves through an application, the more they're going to distinguish themselves from the pack. So, Edgar, you want to jump in with anything else?
No, I think you really do capture it very well, and you know, we are just blown away by all of the many talents that come through in these applications, and there is no right or wrong way for students to really kind of capture that, but I think that there really is a sense of genuine approach that we're looking for, in which students are able to bring forward and say, you know, here are the things that make me who I am. And you know, sometimes students can be a little hesitant because they feel like they can be bragging, but I think that's just encouraging them to say, you know, here is who I am as a community member or as a student. You know, that is the sort of encouragement that sometimes it just takes.
Awesome. Thanks, Edgar. And maybe you can speak to what happens on the other side of the application process. So what does it mean when a student is declined admission into a fly-in program?
Yeah. So when students are not admitted to our fly-in programs, you know, it is these are opportunities for students to see that, or to know that, you know, this is not the end of their admissions process. These are two very different processes that are happening on different timelines, and to know that there are opportunities for improvement. And so if a student is thinking, you know, maybe, you know, I might want to work on my application in a different way, maybe want to improve my grades during the first semester of my senior year, first trimester, whatever grading period the school tends to be on. Maybe they want to retake the SAT or the ACT. You know, all of these things are ways in which they can continue to think about, how can I make myself and present myself as the most polished version of myself that I can be. And that's, you know, that's certainly a conversation to have. We here at Amherst actually have a process by which we say, you know, we thought you were an amazing student. It just happens to be that we have a program that can only accommodate 100 students each time. We have the two fly-in programs, so it's a total of 200. But we do encourage students that you know, are promising and look like they would be admissible to still consider applying to Amherst. And we actually back that up with a fee waiver. And so it's not to say that, you know, a student who is denied from the fly-in program is always going to be denied later on down the road if they apply early decision or regular decision, but knowing that these are sort of ways in which to get feedback about kind of an application process, and to sort of start that practice of actually doing it before you finally submit for early decision or regular decision or early action or any of the plans by which students can apply for admission.
Awesome.
Yeah, I would.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Damien.
Yeah, certainly. I would echo what Edgar says and can, reiterate the fact that it is unfortunately a numeric limit to how much we can host and provide the experience for at any given time. So, for instance, our program is once in the fall, and we have up to about 130, 140 opportunities or spots for the program, and we have nearly 1,000 applications. So we're not denying, we're not saying that the 900, 800 or so students are not admissible to Hopkins. It's really, there's a large share of those students that are quite admissible. In fact, the majority are so, and we hope to continue engaging with them. And like my colleague at Amherst, we do offer waivers to those students and try to make sure that we can provide that application assistance. But even beyond that, we're looking for ways to communicate and engage with you in meaningful ways if you were not admitted to the program. So again, look for those opportunities. Again, and it definitely is not a, well, if I didn't get into this program, I'm not going to get admitted to the school. That's just an inaccurate way to go about proceeding after during that time. So nothing much more to add, but simply to reiterate that it's just a finite number and budget that kind of limits us to the amount of students we can bring onto campus during that time. Alyssa?
Awesome. Thanks, Damien. And I think I'll have you just address our last set of questions here along with Remy. So preparing for and attending a fly-in program, and any tips or resources for parents and guardians.
Absolutely. So one of the things you definitely want to do is, one of the things that I think most of our programs will try to do is get you a tentative or as close to a tentative itinerary before you arrive. One thing to do to prepare for that fly-in program once accepted and decided you're attending is to look over that itinerary and see, okay, who are you going to be meeting with? Who are you going to be spending time in front of? And make sure you get a chance to do some research and look at that department, look at that division, because during the short time you're on campus, there's going to be a lot sort of put in front of you, and you may not have time to think broadly at that time once you're in front of a campus division for maybe 10, 15 minutes and move on to another person who represents another division. But you maybe want to come prepared with some questions and thoughts about what would it be like to be serviced by this department, or bring those questions to the forefront of your. So definitely plan questions ahead of time. Study the itinerary so you know what's happening, know who you're meeting with. I think for parents and for guardians, they need to also know, you need to keep them informed of what's going on and what your time will be like on campus. If there are parents and guardians flying with you and being accommodated, I know some programs may accommodate parents, just put them up. Some programs may not, but you want to make sure you're being transparent with your parents and let them know what you're going to be doing, where you're going to be. I think that's one of the biggest challenges or concerns that we always run into each year is students not letting their parents know when they arrive and things like that. So I'll pass it on to my colleague at Remy to see if she has any to add.
Yeah, that was terrific. I mostly kind of just made notes of reassurance for parents. First and foremost, knowing that, your babies are our babies for the, 24 to 72 hours that they're on our campus. We plan for these programs months and months and months in advance. So as Damien mentioned, there are folks that are aware that your kids are on campus, right? We alert all of the relevant people, campus security, dining halls, residential life, et cetera. I think all programs, in addition to the three of ours, have a point person or several point people that you can always get in touch with, right? So if parents are worried about, is my child being taken care of? Are they okay? There's always somebody you can contact, and we want to make ourselves available for that. Also, reassuring parents that any issues that they're concerned about, we've probably already seen. This isn't the first fly-in program for any of us, and I'm sure that goes for most institutions nationwide. We've seen the allergies, we've seen the dietary restrictions, we've seen the really shy student, right, who has a hard time connecting with others. We've seen all that, and we're prepared to deal with it and to make sure that every student has the best possible experience. So certainly, if there are concerns, always reach out because we want to make sure that obviously the kids are having a great time, but that the parents aren't worried about them while they're on our campuses as well. So Alyssa, back to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Remy, and thank you for the panelists for addressing all of those questions that we just put out there today. And I am so glad someone already asked this before we transition into the Q&A section. They asked about where to find a list of these programs and the links, and that is what I have up right now on the screen. So many of you have heard of Greenlight through our really popular fly-in list featured on our blog. So you'll all have access to this link following the presentation. And just one more last plug, if you are unaware of Greenlight, new to it, want to learn more, definitely reach out to us, and I'll make sure to follow up with you individually following the presentation. We're already getting so many awesome questions, so I'm going to start, and since we didn't get to gaze on the lovely faces of our panelists, I'm just going to leave it up now for the Q&A section, so you all know who you are hearing from and speaking with. So the first question I'm going to start with, and I think if each panelist wants to answer, or maybe one or two for each question, that's fine. I actually think this one would be great to hear from every institution, though. Are your flying programs available to undocumented students?
I can start. This is Remy from Carleton. We are absolutely open to undocumented students.
Yes, this is Damien from Hopkins. Yes, we are open to undocumented students.
And this is Edgar from Amherst, and I agree with the other two that yes, we are also supportive of undocumented students for our fly-in programs.
Awesome, thank you. Getting a few questions also about Gpa and test scores, kind of variations of questions. So how important are test scores, especially if you're considering that students might be coming from an area or community where there are maybe zero test prep centers in their area where they are?
Well, one of the great things, if I could start, this is Damien from Hopkins. One of the great things I think about the fly-in programs and the sort of miniature application process is that we do treat it as a sort of mini holistic review application process. So we do try to take context into consideration, and the information we ask to you, it's going to seem like, man, I have to apply almost an entire application for a program before I actually apply for the college itself. And that's purposeful. I think we want to give students the benefit of the doubt and try to understand as much as we can things like that, context in regards to your application and pursuant of the opportunity for the fly-in program.
Awesome. All right. What are the competitive, kind of going on the academic fit, what are competitive GPA and PSAT or ACT scores for each school? Marcia asked, I know there's a holistic application approach, but is there an academic floor for each program?
I can start. This is Remy from Carleton. No, we don't have an academic floor. It's interesting because, yeah, we actually are one of the schools that requires students to submit test scores for the application. Any test score is fine. Certainly we take a look at if those scores would be competitive in our overall application process. And as Damien mentioned, it is a holistic review, and it's sort of a pre-read a little bit before the actual application process. But is there a floor? Absolutely not. It's such a holistic process, even in terms of the fly-in program, that we'll pick up the phone and we'll call. If we see a student who looks great and we'll say, gosh, what's going on with these test scores, or what's going on with junior year, we just pick up the phone and call. And if a student has an explanation for what happened, or if we think the student has the potential to be a great fit at Carleton and to succeed academically and personally, socially, emotionally, then yeah, we'll give them a spot. There's no floor.
Yeah, I would also echo that. This is Edgar from Amherst. Just wanted to kind of echo that and drive that point home that, these application processes, we look at the demographics and the scores of the class and the sort of similar metrics for the applicants for our fly-in programs, and we tend to see that that there is a lot of similarities between the two of them. And so, here at Amherst, I would say that, our academically strong students, come through in not only just the regular decision and early decision rounds, but also coming in through these fly-in programs. And so we know that many of these students that are looking at a place like Amherst or looking at places like Johns Hopkins or Carleton are going to have many choices. And so I think that encouraging students to use this as one of many ways to engage fit because they are so academically strong. I think that that's a great way to sort of think about it.
Yes, and I agree with. Oh, sorry, and I agree with my colleagues there. We do look at the competitiveness of the pool that's applying each year, and that said, it's going to be different each year. So we don't know what we're getting. In other words, when by the time we collect all the applications, we then take a look holistically and see, okay, where is the competitive mark here academically, and then we sort of look at each year we select our applicants. It's going to be based on the pool of folks who submitted. So some years it's going to be very strong. Some years it's exactly in line with what we see in our application pool. Some years it's stronger. And maybe some years, another year it might be a little bit lower. But again, we go in the context of who has submitted an application and sort of look at it from that point. So no, we do not have sort of a floor or a limit test score. Elisa?
Yep. All right. So I guess I know we are asking a lot about academic fit, but some counselors are asking some, I think, really interesting questions that are worth addressing. So maybe if it's even veering away from the school-specific questions, but thinking about those more quiet middle students or lower GPA students, maybe, like highly selective institutions like, the three that you are all representing today, what options or what advice or would you have for those students in terms of taking advantage of any flying programs that might be out there?
I can start. This is Remy. So I guess I actually would say it might even be more important for those students to take advantage of those opportunities should they present themselves. The high-flying academic student, who's got great grades and test scores and is appealing for a number of reasons, is going to get into many great schools anyway. And I think students who are, as you mentioned, kind of in the middle or maybe have struggled a little bit academically, unless we have a reason to go and get those students, right, and make them one of the students that we admit, keeping in mind that we have to say no to far more students than we get to say yes to in all of our processes. Those students, I think, could benefit so much more from the personal connection that a fly-in program offers. There are some students, I'll be, just flat out honest, there are some students that if we had not met them through our fly-in program, I'm not sure they would have been admitted to Carleton, right? But because we got 3 days with them to connect with them and see what a wonderful fit they would be for this place, we got a chance to interview with them. We got a chance to see how they would interact with their peers, with others on campus. There are some kids that we thought, man, we really need this kid. They're such a great fit for this place, right? And just reading that student's application through a computer screen, I'm not sure that all would have come through, right? And if your academics aren't dazzling and all we see is a paper application or a virtual application, it can be really tough to take those students later in the process. So for those students in particular, I'd encourage them even more than the academic high flyers to look into fly-in programs or similar opportunities.
Awesome. Thanks, Remy. I know we are running a little bit over time, so the last question, I'll just maybe have the three of you just answer quickly. It's a pretty straightforward question from a counselor here. So do any of your applications require letters of recommendation? Remy, do you want to start, and then we'll do Damien and Edgar?
We do not. Counselors are welcome to send supplemental materials, but we don't require them.
Likewise, at Hopkins, we do not require a counselor recommendation.
Same here. We at Amherst do not require any counselor recommendations.
Okay, that was easy. All right. So thank you, everyone, so much for sitting through our webinar and being patient with our technical difficulties. So I will be sending out a recording, and if your question was not specifically addressed, we'll follow up with you individually. So if the panelists, you just want to say a final farewell before we sign off. Remy, you want to start again?
Yeah, totally. Farewell, I suppose. Thank you all for dealing with our technical ineptitude here. That was mostly me. I apologize, but I hope we were helpful. And feel free to reach out, whether you've got students who care about Carleton or not. So many of us like to just chat about the college admissions process and college access. So please do utilize me as a resource if that would be helpful in the future.
Hi guys, thank you for your attention and time today. I just wanted to leave you on one last note that flying programs is certainly a great opportunity and a great way to learn about a campus and be on campus. But all of us, I think, extend the opportunity in so many other ways, whether it's be visiting the campus virtually, hosting various live webinars, and certainly just regular campus visits and tours. So there are many other ways that are not categorized as fly-ins that you can certainly continue to take advantage of. And oftentimes for those students who weren't admitted but are deemed highly admissible, still, we want to see you engage and find other ways to see what it's like to be on campus. So that's one opportunity, but definitely keep in mind the many other ways in which you can see the campus and get to know people at our respective campuses. Have a good evening.
I guess I'll finish out here and say, once again, thank you so much for being here with us today. It's been a pleasure answering your questions and getting to sort of share some of this fun wisdom that we get to have by virtue of having such a wonderful job that connects us to incredible students, counselors, families, everyone around the country and around the world. And as you explore any opportunities to come out and visit us, I urge you, stop by our offices. Now you've seen our faces and you know that we are not scary people. We are all smiley and very excited to chat with you all. So don't be a stranger, and we hope to see you on the road. Thanks again.
Thank you, everyone, and I will make sure that you will have ways to contact our panelists and have that in the follow-up. So have a good afternoon or evening wherever you're dialing in from. It's been a pleasure, and we hope that you found this helpful. There will be a very quick survey at the end once you exit the webinar. It'll take 3 minutes. We'd love to hear your feedback from all ranges of feedback. So that would be so useful for us for future presentations. So thanks, everyone.